So you want to start an Airbnb business this year. Before you even get started, there are two things that you need to know. The first one is, what is your actual goal? And the second is, what is the strategy that you're going to use to get there? Let's start with the goal. I see a lot of people jump into this business and they think that they just got to go out and get properties and they jump right into it and then they build a portfolio and then they look back and the business and the portfolio doesn't even serve them. You want to build a business and a portfolio that serves you. So let's start with, what do you actually want? Most people tell me that they want some sort of financial freedom, whatever that means to them. So for you, is that $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month, $50,000 a month? What is that number for you? And I'll give you a quick tip, a quick exercise that you can do in 5 minutes. Download your bank statements for the last 6 months, all your transactions from your bank account, your credit cards, and then just take an average to see what are your monthly expenses right now. Take that average over the last 6 months. That'll give you a good baseline. Then from that point, what would you want to add into your life? Do you want to travel a couple times a year? So where would you want to go? Do you want to go to Italy and then Hawaii and then Florida? Are you flying first class? Are you staying at 5-star resorts? Are you staying at budget places? Are you staying at short-term rentals? How much would those trips cost? Assuming that you hit whatever number you needed to quit your job and you were going to live that lifestyle, how much would that cost? Then from that point, we want to figure out, what would your perfect week look like? If you're not going to a job every day and you're setting up this business to work in just a few hours a week, what would you actually spend your time doing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? What do you actually want to spend your time doing? And the reason that you really want to get clear on this is twofold. One, you need a target to focus on because it's going to make your decision-making a lot cleaner. And two, you need to have a burning desire to change. Because the reality is, this isn't going to be all sunshine and rainbows like everybody online is telling you how amazing this business is. It is great, but you're going to have good days and bad days and everything in between. And if the reason that you want to start this isn't strong enough, you're going to quit. And that's just the reality of it. So you want to set up some goals that are exciting and compelling for you, that are going to push you past your comfort zone, to take the action when you don't feel like it, when you're afraid, when you're scared, when you're feeling like crap, whatever it is, to keep you moving in the right direction. So come up with your freedom number and what your perfect week would look like and what some of your goals are that you are driving towards right now and why. Then once you're clear on your goal, then we can figure out which strategy within the Airbnb space is going to be most efficient for you. And when I think about a business strategy for a business that serves me, I think about what is going to be the most efficient way to hit my goal, meaning which strategy will have the highest upside in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of risk. So there are 3 options within the Airbnb and short-term rental space. You can go out and buy property, you can go out and rent somebody else's property, or you could co-host a property for somebody. So let's talk about all 3 of those. I am a huge fan of owning real estate. I own a lot of real estate at this point in my career, but based on where we are in the market right now, that is not the path of least resistance. It has a lot of upside. It is not the fastest way to get to your freedom number, and it has the most amount of risk because you're putting the most amount of money into that strategy. The second model is what we call rental arbitrage, where you go out and rent a home or an apartment from somebody, you pay to furnish it, and then you re-rent it on Airbnb and some of these platforms as a short-term rental. I also don't love this model because over time, rents have increased and there is a huge shortage of housing right now. So there is a lot of downward pressure on that business model as we speak right now. And it's gonna cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 just to furnish the property and put your first month and last month and security deposit down at the time of signing. Now I know there's other people online that'll teach you how to do that with credit cards and everything else, but my question is, why would you still want to invest $20,000 into a property that you don't even own? To me, that model never made sense. Third and final version, which I personally recommend, is co-hosting other people's properties. So what exactly is a co-host? A co-host is someone that helps a property owner run the day-to-day operations of that property. That can include helping design and build out the property. It can include creating the listing, setting up the pricing strategy, getting the photos taken, communicating with guests, communicating with cleaners, coordinating any maintenance. It's essentially handling the day-to-day operations of running a short-term rental business. In exchange for that service, A co-host charges anywhere from 20 to 25% of the total booking revenue on that property. So let's look at the math on this, okay? So if you're going to co-host a property that can generate $60,000 a year in revenue and you charge a 20% co-host fee, that property will generate you $12,000 a year or $1,000 a month. So with that type of property, that type of asset, you need 8 properties in order to hit 100K a year. If you co-host properties that generate $100,000 a year and you charge 20%, you make $20,000 a year on that property. So in that case, you only need 5 properties. If you can co-host properties that generate $125,000 a year, you make $25,000. You only need 4. So the path to get from 0 to 100K does not take a lot of property. Now the question is, how do you find those properties? What you first want to start with is, what are going to be the best markets? How do you do market research? Which markets would you like to operate in? And then you go into a site like Airbnb to figure out, okay, how many properties in this market are doing over $100,000? And you start to get a sense of where are these hot pockets of properties that you can go in to potentially co-host. So once we identify the right markets that we want to be in, then we got to figure out what types of properties could we co-host for. Now, what I would suggest is, based on where we are in the market right now, I want to look for underperforming properties. So if there's a lot of properties in a certain neighborhood or a certain resort or wherever that are doing, say, $150,000, but there's a few properties in there that are doing 80, 100, 120,000, those are the ones that I want to target, because clearly they're not doing something right? And I'll talk about that in just a second, but those are the underperforming properties. Those are the underserved investors that I want to focus on, because I know I can fix it and take that revenue from 100,000 to 150,000 and help out that owner. So the question is how do I fix that? And we can cover that in another video. That's a long story. However, there are 2 primary buckets that you can do to fix an underperforming property. The first one is the property in the listing itself. Is it not photographed well? Does it not have the amenities? Is the listing not set up correctly? Are the listing descriptions not optimized to attract the ideal avatar for that property? Are the review scores low? This is huge. Airbnb put out a study last year that showed the direct correlation between review scores and revenue. When you take a property that has a 4.5 star score or lower and take them to a 4.7 star review score, you'll increase the revenue of that property by 20%. If you take it to a 4.8 or a 4.9, you can increase it by 50% just by managing it more effectively, because this industry is so review driven that when you increase the reviews, you increase exposure, you get more bookings. The second lever that you can pull is around the pricing strategy. And in my opinion, this is one of the best ways to differentiate yourself, because 99% of people do not understand how to price properties correctly. Most people will throw it in some type of dynamic pricing software, and they assume that the software will do its job and that they don't have to touch it. Those softwares are great and I use them, but you have to get in there and understand your comps, and you have to consistently make adjustments and tweaks to optimize the listing and to drive more bookings. Once you identify what levers you can pull to increase the revenue on that property, now it's time to reach out to that owner. Now it's time to put together your pitch deck, underwrite the deal, show the upside on that, and reach out to the owner to seal the deal and get them to sign your co-host agreement so that you can take over that property and start optimizing it for them. If you want a detailed training on how we identify these markets, how we identify these owners, and even the exact scripts that we use to reach out to these owners, I did a 1-hour live training on this about a month ago. If you want that, just click the link down below where it breaks down step by step of, hey, go into Airbnb, click this, do this, go to this software, do this, this, and this. It's spelled out step by step in that training. I'm happy to give that to you because I think it'll add a lot more context. But in this video, I wanted to give you that framework of 1, make sure you're clear on what you want, and then 2, which strategy are you going to use to actually execute on? Because what I want to help you do is build a business that serves you. So if your goal is $10,000 a month, I'd rather have you find 4 of those properties not 15 of them. That is the path of least resistance, and it's a lot easier to manage 4 properties than it is to manage 15 or 20 or 30 or 50. So I know this training was a lot more high level, and do not worry, we're gonna get into the nuts and bolts. This channel is all about helping you get more properties, more bookings, and more time back, but I wanted to start with this foundation so that before you go out there and start executing on this, you have a very clear strategy and a very clear goal in mind so that you're not wasting your time, and we create the path of least resistance to hit your goals. So hit that subscribe button. We'll be coming out with fresh content for you every single week, again, to get more properties, more bookings, and more time back. I'll see you in the next one.